You know, one of the things that our team members like to talk about are quotes from different books, right? And you know, our producers have actually quoted a quote from Lily Hayslip, which basically says, you know, we see ourselves in the middle of heaven and earth, you know, for you, your journey started out in a very, very interesting way. How did that journey affect who you are now and the kind of decisions that you make?
Wow, that's a big question, a very big question. So, you know, for my family, we are from THAY ĐޮCI province in Vietnam, and then we got to Australia, and I grew up and spent most of my life there until coming to Vietnam to live in 2007. My family is Vietnamese, but then, you know, I was born in a land, Thailand, and then I grew up in Australia. So essentially the formation of three different countries, and this experience of deep hardship and struggle. I think what I have learnt is, through my parents, is the meaning of courage. I've learnt what the meaning of integrity is. And I watched my parents struggle, but they never made choices that were unethical. So I learned courage, I learned integrity, I learned also deep compassion. And I saw that even in our struggle, my parents would be helping other people. And that a life that is worth living is a life that is meaningful. And, you know, there's a psychologist that came up with, you know, 3 types of happiness. The first happiness is pleasurable. So you seek pleasure, you know, new food experiences, new travel experiences, and all of these experiences around your senses. And then that happiness is sort of short-lived. The second type of happiness is a happiness where you have an engaged life. And the engaged life is using all of the skills and gifts, natural gifts that you have towards a purpose. So if you're in a job or work where you're using most of your skills that come naturally to you, you feel really engaged. But also the happiness there is not really long lasting either. And then the third level of happiness is a meaningful life. And the meaningful life is you use your skills, your education, your life experiences in service, where you can contribute to a better society and to help the environment around you. And that is actually leading to long-term happiness and fulfillment. So, you know, how I make decisions in my life is based on what gives my life meaning, and not to be afraid of making hard decisions, but always maintaining integrity and not being afraid to live my parents' values of courage and resilience.
Would you describe yourself as fearless? You know, if somebody were to just look at you on paper, it seems fearless. Would you describe yourself as fearless as a person?
You're right. You're right when you said, if you look at me on paper. I guess I'll tell you a story where you would probably think, wow, that's pretty fearless. So when I finished high school, I was, you know, 17, 18, and I needed money, and I didn't start university yet, but I was working. My family was very poor, right? So I was working in many different jobs. I was working in a factory, and in that place, I was the only female, you know, in the factory. Also, I became a pizza delivery driver. So I worked for Pizza Hut. And so I would go by myself as a female driver to deliver the pizzas. And in areas where in a apartment block, there were no lights. All the lights were broken. So I had to crawl on the staircase with the pizza. And if I put my hand in front of my face, I could not see my hand. And so I would have to go to each door and feel number 5, nope, and then go, crawl, then number 6, you know, keep going. And then years later, I found myself being the first Australian youth representative to the United Nations General Assembly in New York City, where I was the first person of Asian background to represent Australia at the UN in that role. And when I left, the State Department, the Foreign Affairs Department, gave me an apartment in New York to live. And when I left, I think I had like $20. You know, I was doing this big role, but I had no money and I was going by myself. I don't know whether I would describe myself as fearless. I think I would maybe describe myself as someone very comfortable with uncomfortable situations.
Well, Cát Thảo, that was so wonderful, and thank you for sharing all of these stories. So IFO audience, we're going to take a short break, and after the break, we're going to come back and talk to Cát Thảo journey to success and how she views success. We'll be right back.
Seasons of love.